Hello Mike, this is Mashnu, and I've been looking at your game that you played against Andreas Flicker. I must say to start that I enjoyed very much this game. It's absolutely clear that you have a very attacking style, and that's so entertaining to watch, and also I suppose is very exciting for yourself to play. Let's have a look at the game. You play d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, and now b5. So this is the Volga gambit, and you accept the gambit, and after a6 you accept the pawn on a6. Now here actually I'll go back one move. In fact, you can say I'm not a very great expert on this opening, but I can tell you that there are in fact two types of players for white here. One of them is the type of player who thinks every gambit must be accepted because then we go for a big fight and I want to prove that I'm better at these things than my opponent. So let's say that's what you did. By taking on a6, you go without any fear, you go into this variation that black chooses. There's another type of player who think, wait a minute, I want to make things difficult for my opponent and prevent that we go into a type of play that he wants. And those type of players play the move often b6 here, actually returning the pawn immediately. I have played this move many times with success because it actually sometimes frustrates your opponent. If you take on b6, you continue developing with knight c3, d6. Now the plan of white is to advance the pawn to a5, get control over the b6 square, and sometimes we see that the knight goes to f3, to d2, then to c4. Again, looking at this b6 square, that's, let's say, the main idea of this variation. a4, g6, a5, queen to b7, now e4, bishop g7. This is what happens in this type of games. Now, why does this frustrate the black player? It's because the type of position that you get is not like they are used to. They are used to have these two open files, the A file and the B file, to have an attack on that side. They are used to be able to develop their bishop to a6 towards f1, and those are all plans that in this variation don't count. So actually this way we can try to force our opponents to think for themselves instead of follow the patterns that they always follow. So well, this is maybe an advice for you for the next time if you want to try this out. But of course b takes a6 is a very good move. It's just a different type of play. Now let's continue. g6, knight c3, the bishop takes on a6, e4, this is all theory, bishop takes, king takes, d6, and here you have several options. You choose for the most aggressive one, the move g4. Now a more calm way of playing this variation is to play knight f3. After bishop g7, g3, castle king side, now king to g2 to be able to activate the rook, knight b to d7, rook to e1. So a different plan than you follow in your game. This is more, let's say, slower and perhaps also safer, and going for the, let's say, most positional plans of the position. So defending this e4 pawn very well, and later perhaps trying to do something with our pass pawn, the a file, but that's also something for the future. So a different approach, let's say. In your game, I'll go back now to the position of the d6. You choose for the most active and aggressive variation g4. Very exciting, because what is black going to do with his king? That's the big question. Will he have the guts to castle kingside and risk this attack by advancing the h-pawn, the pawn avalanche with the g4, h4, h5, or will he stay with the king in the center, allowing you perhaps to open the center? And the question is also, how safe is white? Because our king on f1 right now, there's nothing wrong with it. One thing that must be mentioned is that black is missing his light square bishop. So the weakness of the light squares around the white king, it's not that big, because black doesn't have a light square bishop, so it's very difficult for him to attack these squares. Let's see how the game continued. Bishop to g7, and now you go on with g5. Another idea would be, of course, to play king g2 first, but no problem with g5. The knight goes to d7. I think this is not the best option for black. Perhaps knight to h5 is better. Actually blocking this h5 square for eventually a pawn advancing, and also keeping the d7 square perhaps for the other knight, or perhaps later in the game things like this that we see often in the Benoni and in the Volga gambit. So well, knight to d7 was played. You continue with knight g to e2. I guess in this position you were thinking, what's the best way to continue my attack? Is my knight neither on f3 or on e2? The idea of that you play knight to e2 is clear. Later bring it to g3 so it can support the h5 square where your opponent will advance. So that's very logical. Knight to g2, knight a6, and here king to g2, castle kingside, and h4. It's all according to plan. I think right here you have a good position. Your king is safe at the moment on g2. You have a clear plan of advancing this pawn and attacking the kingside position. We still need to make a weakness here, and that's something that is not very easy to achieve perhaps, but it is necessary. This weakness can be made by using the h-file and advancing the h-pawn and taking on g6, but it's not very easy. Queen to a5 played now, and here somehow you change your plans. You play the move a2, a4. I do understand why you do it. You want to activate the rook from a1 to the third rank to participate in the attack. I wonder if it's perhaps a bit too slow. And I think that looking at your way of playing, your love for this attacking chess, it would be perhaps a better idea to continue straight forward with your plan of advancing the h-pawn with h5. In fact, we can say that when we have an attacking position, we have to try to keep our opponent busy all the time. Here, let's say black continues with knight to b4. Can we take on g6? And now what? If it takes with the f-pawn, then the e6 square will be very weak, so we can continue with knight to e4. And later knight to e6. This looks very promising for white. So that means that after taking on g6 he would have to take with the h pawn. So we already have now the open h file. That's what we wanted. Now this knight on b4 is preventing our queen from going to d3 and h3. So this would be the moment perhaps to play a3. a3 to chase this knight away. Although while I'm saying this, I'm realizing that we don't threaten to take because the rook is undefended here still. This is okay. This makes it a little more difficult. Let me see. So perhaps we would have to do it in a different way. It's not easy how to use more attacking power then. If you play a3, if you stays here, well in fact perhaps it's not a problem, because let's say he plays rook f to c8. He wants to have play on the queen side. Rook to a2 is not good, but rook to b1 is good. Now we threaten to take here, so he must go to a6, and now we have the free path to go to d3 and later to h3. And now we are having a good, well prepared attack. I think that this would have been better for you than the plan that you chose to continue the attack in your game, because right now we have this beautiful open h file. We can go to h3 with the queen later, threaten to enter on h7. Yeah, I mean it goes too far to analyze every variation and every move on tactical ideas, but in general attacking plans, I think this would be a better way to, let's say, keep your opponent busy and keep the initiative. Let's go back to the game, how it went. See, we left here, and here you played a4. So the idea that you have is to activate the rook, and well, perhaps this is I've seen this a4, rook a3 in games against the Benoni as well, and when we open the h file we actually need a queen on h3. So queen to d3, queen to h3, that's the plan that we need to follow. Let's see, rook to b8 was played, and you continue with your own idea. Rook to a3, knight to c7, and now knight to g3. It's actually, let's say, the theme of this game is the question whether to prepare the breakthrough or to break through immediately. You are preparing the breakthrough all the time, which is of course very wise. On the other hand, it goes a bit against this attacking playing style that you have. Let's have a look at h5 immediately again. h5, wanting to open, of course. Here, of course, black will not take on h5, that would be ridiculous. So let's say knight to e5, for example. We take here. Again, if he takes with the f pawn, the e6 pawn might become weak, and also we have the option of advancing the f pawn to f4 now, attacking the knight and continuing with f5. Perhaps a bit risky, but I think it would be good. Let's say h takes g6, and now black wants to prevent our queen from going to d3. We can also try to look for a different way of using the h-file by moving this rook, for example, to h4 or to h3, and then placing the queen on h1. Well, h8 is still defended, so perhaps that's not the best way of doing this. It's very difficult to bring this rook to the h-file, and right now it's difficult as well to bring the queen. Wait a minute, could it be an idea to play queen to g1, queen to h2, or is this by tactical means not a good idea? Oops. Let's have a short look with the idea of playing queen to h2. This could be another attacking idea. Now the danger is that black plays at a certain point c4 and knight d3. That's what we have to be careful about. You can even play knight d3 right now, and by this he will be blocking the third rank, so it would be very difficult to move the rook to the h-file. There's queen h2 now. He could take on c1. Take on c1. We have to take with knight, because otherwise we cannot use our attacking power over there. I'm not sure. I think after queen h7 later the king goes to f8. We don't have much more. Now I think this is not really that easy, this attacking idea. h5 immediately right now, so knight to g3 is what you did. Let's see how we continued here. Rook to b7, knight to b5, queen to b6, and now you take on c7, and he takes with queen, and now h5. Well, the good thing about this variation that you chose is that now later we can use this rook here. He did here a very good defensive move, knight to f8. Knight to f8 to control the h7 square. You played queen to g4. Let's see what other options would be here to attack. Well, of course, opening the h-file is always an option. The question is only how can we continue here this attack, or is it just do we have to draw the conclusion that the kingside attack is let's say well defended by black and doesn't have much future. This is also something that happens later in the game. Well, not much later actually. I'll go back one move. You played queen to g4 and you played queen to d7, and here in fact this is also a key moment in the game, because here you have to make a decision whether to trade queens and, let's say, give up your initial plan of attacking, or try to continue the attack. You try to continue the attack, and in fact this is something psychological what happens here. It happens to many players that we have invested during the game in a certain attack or in a certain strategy, and then it becomes very difficult for us to move away from it. Here queen takes e7, knight takes e7 gives us a position where we have at the moment a pawn more, but the b2 pawn will be falling, so it will be a, well, let's say middle game still, but going towards an endgame where we have a passed a pawn against the passed c pawn of the opponent. This can be very exciting. If this falls, trade. Now we can take here first and then go with the rook to a1 to support this pawn on a5. it's an interesting position, but it's a total different kind of position than what you wanted to achieve in your game. I think that this would have given you chances, but it's a total different kind of chances. This is a chances looking towards an end game and trying to show your end game abilities. Let's go back to the game, because after queen to d7 you played queen to h4, so you are still trying to continue this kingside attack. And in fact, black has defended all these squares so well that it becomes very difficult to continue this attack. Black takes now on a4. You play rook to f3, bringing all your pieces into the king side, and he plays a very good move here, e6. This move is good because it opens the 7th rank for eventually defending here. Now you come with a very creative move. I must say it's absolutely very creative move. Unfortunately, it's not correct. Rook to f6. After rook to f6, your idea is very clear. You want black to take on f6 so the dark squares can become weak. This is something difficult in chess, that sometimes variations get so complicated, and we try to calculate the different possible replies, and at a certain point we must make a decision, and this shows that you are not afraid. You are not afraid of your opponent, you are willing to take risks, and you're willing to go whether it's all or nothing, let's say. And that is a very good attitude. Now you will have to accept that sometimes you will be punished, because sometimes it would be, let's say, objectively seen advisable to take it easy and go into an endgame. Here actually black could also have taken on f6. If you take back on f6, then he takes here, and then you can take on g6, but he always takes with the f-pawn back. By taking with the f-pawn, he controls the 7th rank with his queen and with his rook, so this is very well defended. In the game, after rook to f6, he took on d5. You played bishop to f4, and now he took the rook. Take back, and the knight goes to e6. So now he's defending the g7 square with his knight. After knight f5, knight takes f4. I had seen another variation here, g takes f5, or if he takes the pawn here. Actually you don't have much also here, because the knight on e6 is defending g7, so even if you give a check here, it goes to h8. It doesn't go to f8, because then the bishop gives a check here and then you enter. But if it goes to h8, as long as this knight stays here, the g7 square is safe, and there is no way to get rid of this knight of e6, because you don't have a light square bishop and you don't have a knight, and you also don't have a rook right now to sacrifice it over there. So in fact, here we can conclude that the white attack didn't succeed. He took first on f4 with check, queen takes, and now he took with queen on f5, and correctly you resigned here, because there is no way now to continue. Summarizing, I would say, Mike, that I admire your fighting power. I admire your attitude to fight and to take risk and not to be afraid of your opponent. It has also a counterpart. The counterpart that sometimes it's a challenge to switch our plans and think what are the alternatives to continue the attack. Like, for example, this idea of trading queens on d7 and going to this endgame. I think that in this game, in fact, it was not your opponent who defeated you. I think that you defeated yourself here, in the sense that you went, let's say, what is a good point in your play, your attacking ideas. If it goes too far, it becomes a weakness, and that's what happens here. You just went too far with wanting to attack, and it was an attack that was not completely sound, and in fact your opponent only needed to react and keep his own position safe. So that's why I'm saying that in fact he didn't win against you. He didn't defeat you. You defeated yourself. It's I think that those are the things that I can say about this game. It is very exciting, and I'm sure that you had a very exciting moment here playing this game, and I wish that you continue. You don't give up this attacking style. Continue, but add to it something else. Add to it the wisdom of sometimes asking yourself whether it's wise to just go start another plan and give up your first plan. Returning and, let's say, making a step on the same spot where you're standing, instead of going with big velocity forward, sometimes it's wise. Sometimes it's wise to just take it easy. Alright, well, I'll make an end now to this video. I hope you found this interesting, how I looked at this game and the position. And perhaps also you would like to, let me go to the beginning of the game here, to have a look at this variation with b6, to simply give your opponent something else than what he expects in this Volga gambit. It's an interesting variation. You can find information about this on internet. There are many websites where they tell something about this. Alright, well, I'll say goodbye now. You can go to my website now, and if you like, give me a donation by using the donate button, and I wish you lots and lots and lots of success. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.